I must congratulate BMA for holding this wonderful event. I'm sorry that I'm not able to join you personally because of other engagements, but I do want to share with you some of my own thoughts, particularly with regard to innovation, scale up, and the issues of growth which are laid by innovation. In fact, what India needs, of course, is growth, but I would say it should be inclusive growth and, more importantly, accelerated inclusive growth. And it has to be innovation-led, accelerated inclusive growth, and hopefully game-changing or disruptive innovation-led, accelerated inclusive growth. So I use number of words, but each one of them is very, very important. Let me say at the outset that to be successful in carrying an invention to a stage where there is a product or a service in the marketplace, that is the entire journey from mind to marketplace, depends a whole lot on what we consider as innovation ecosystem. So therefore we must build not only the physical constructs, the intellectual constructs, but also cultural constructs. Culture is very, very important. Culture to question, culture to challenge, culture to have an open mind, open to all ideas, becomes extremely critical. And that's what India is trying to build today. How do we make sure that an invention or a discovery or a breakthrough in a lab or an idea will finally move to marketplace? I've developed a very simple matrix. It is called assured total innovation. What does assured mean? Assured means affordable, scalable, sustainable, universal or user-friendly, rapid, excellent, and distinctive. Each of these letters have a meaning. For example, when you talk about affordable, depending upon the economic pyramid on which you are, it becomes affordable to that segment. I mean, if you are rich, maybe Jaguar Land Rover. Maybe if you are poor, it is Nano, and so on and so forth. So that is the affordability part. Scalable. Out of the addressable consumer, what fraction of it you are able to serve? For example, if you look at mobiles, today we have something like 1.25 billion mobiles. It's a huge market. But if you are looking at, let us say, a disease like tuberculosis, the proportion would be very small. And if you are having a breakthrough in tuberculosis, what fraction of that consumer you are able to get? That is scalable. Sustainable. Even if you reach scale, you will not be able to sustain if following three criteria have not been used. The first is economic. Economically sustainable implies that you must have a sound business model. For example, you can't live on subsidies, government subsidies forever. It has to be kind of profitable in a standalone way. The second is environmental, because society will reject anything that is not green. And finally, social acceptability, the third one, because you have seen whether it is GMOs, whether it is nuclear energy, etc. Some of these things are not just acceptable to the society. So that is sustainable. Then comes user-friendly. I think we have seen that. For example, you remember the old mobiles where one had to actually type out, then they came to touch. Now, even voice activation or commands are moving, so more and more user-friendly. The next one is excellence, because normally affordability and excellence don't go together. But India has shown the way of affordable excellence, and I will talk about it sort of little later. And finally, D is distinctive, because it can't be just imitation of something that has been done elsewhere. I always say that I in India must not stand for imitation, but must stand for innovation. And in order to survive, you have to do that. I mean, the new car models continue to come every 6 months. iPhone 3, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, iPhone 6. One displaces one's own product. So remember this particular matrix assured. Now, a very important aspect that is being discussed in this today's event is that of scalability. Now, there are a number of factors which help you scale, but the fact that you are scaled does not mean that you will sustain your business. Look at, for example, Netscape, which had 80 million customers at a point in time. What did it do? It allowed free download of music. Okay? But from 80 million it came to 0 for a simple reason that as far as the assured matrix was concerned, the sustainability part of it, particularly from societal viewpoint, did not work out, because the musicians said, sorry, our music cannot be downloaded free. So that is the Netscape story. 80 million scaled, but coming to 0. Look at BlackBerry, for example. I mean, 50 million customers. And BlackBerry was a craze at a point in time. Do you hear about BlackBerry now? No, you don't. Because when alternative technologies were coming, Android was coming, smartphones were coming, touch was coming, they were still sticking to their plastic sort of keyboards, and they vanished. So my friends, what I want to communicate to you is that when you are looking at scale, look at the total matrix of assured, ASSURED. And if one of them starts failing, you can be assured that the business is going to be in challenge. In fact, I have co-authored a book with my friend Ravi Pandit. It is called Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, Magic of Radical Yet Sustainable Transformation. This will be hitting the stands next month, where I explain this particular matrix in very great detail. That is point number one. Point number two is that in total innovation, I said assure total innovation. What do I mean by total innovation? You have technological innovation, but it has to be coupled with business model innovation, system delivery innovation, workflow innovation, process innovation, policy innovation, whole range of things. And when you do that, you can create the magic. Take, for example, the issue of creating bank accounts. Today, with close to 370 million accounts, we have actually created a Guinness Book of Record of fastest scaled up inclusive financial inclusive innovation. And how did you do it? It was total innovation. Total innovation in the sense there was a technological innovation which went into smartphones, of course, into our Aadhaar card, but it was also coupled with policy innovation by the government, Jan Dhan Yojana, JAM as we call it, Jan Dhan Yojana, Aadhaar and mobile. So there was a workflow innovation, system delivery innovation, technological innovation, policy innovation. I mean, a whole range of innovations were combined together, and then you could reach that sort of a scale. So I would say the first mantra is assured total innovation. The second thing I want to emphasize now is the change that is taking place in India. And that has to do with our Prime Minister's clarion call on creating a startup nation. I would still say that we are a starting up nation, not a startup nation as yet, like Israel already is a startup nation. But the progress that we are making is very rapid indeed. We are the third fastest growing startup nation in the world today. Bangalore is now ranked the third city in terms of startup density, the first being Silicon Valley, the second being London, and third being sort of Bangalore. And we are making very rapid progress. What I'm particularly happy about is the very conducive environment that the government is providing for startups. For example, a whole range of things have been done. I chair the Maharashtra State Innovation Society. We have come out with a startup policy which is incredibly bold. See, for example, when you have a startup and he is bidding, he has no chance because they will go for L1, the lowest bid. Then what chance does he have? So we are changing the tendering process completely in Maharashtra. Actually, we have mandated the public sector undertakings to have at least 10% of their public procurement from startups. We have made life easy for them because intellectual property rights, patents, for example, are their intangible assets on the basis of which they can raise investments. So, what we have done is that, as far as the patents are concerned, 80% of the costs will be taken care of by the government, only 20% by the startups. And we are also fast-tracking it, in terms of getting them the patents, if they are eligible, of course, in the shortest possible time. So there are a number of wonderful initiatives, both at a national level and state level, and I'm very happy to see the competition between the states to make life easier for them, and more and more of them will spring up. I have been very deeply involved in many of these issues, right from being an advisor to Tata Capital Innovation Fund, to being the chairman of GenNext Ventures, and the accelerator, etc., etc. Incubators. I myself have been a founder in two startups, Vyom Bioscience and Invictus, which are again breakthrough science and technology-led sort of startups. But what I'm particularly happy about is the young generation taking it up. And when I say young, some of them are very young. I'll just give you one example. I chair the Marico Innovation Foundation, and we decided that from this year onwards, we'll also award the startups who have been very innovative and who have used cutting-edge technology and so on. One of the award winners, can you believe? One of the young person was acknowledged and honored, just 14-year-old, by the way. His innovation is all about a drone which is able to spot landmines as well as diffuse them. Can you imagine a 14-year-old boy has already a US patent? Can you imagine his father and mother being very poor, but still they borrowed 5 to 6 lakhs to help him get a sort of prototype? And this is very important because for startups, the three keywords are talent, technology, and trust. We have all the talent in the world, we have all the technology, but we must trust them. That's why I say not venture capital, but adventure capital. Take risks on young. What has been the effect of that? Today, he has created a startup. We asked him, who is the CEO? He said, I am myself the CEO, 14-year-old boy. And we asked him, who are the members of the board? He says, of course, my mom and dad. I think this is incredible. And the Indian Army has been interested in him. He has received queries from South Korea and so on and so forth. My friends, this is the young India that is coming up. And I would like to end by telling you a story in terms of what I'm observing at the ground level. I was talking to a group of young students, and the title of my talk was Satyam Shivam Sundaram. I say Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google. So I say Satyam Shivam Sundaram, What is left out is Shiva. So maybe one of you will become the CEO of Apple, maybe one day. So a young fellow got up, spoke very politely to me. He says, sir, with due apologies, may I say that you don't understand our minds? So I was shocked. I thought I said something nice, giving you a big dream. He said, no. In your generation, the only objective you had was to go to US somehow. Next generation, the objective or the aspiration was to not only go to US but get a great job in either Microsoft or Google or companies like that. The following generation, they wanted to not only go to US, get a job in Microsoft, but become a CEO. Okay? Not our generation. We want to create our own Microsoft, our own Google here in India. That makes me dangerously optimistic about India, by the way. And that part of the youth, their imagination, there is a wonderful definition of an innovator. Innovator is one who does not know it cannot be done. Young people do that. Innovator is one who sees what everybody else sees, but thinks of what nobody else thinks. Young people today are able to do that. So I think India's future in terms of the emerging innovation landscape is great. We are all scared about technology-led jobless growth. I don't think the new jobs are going to come by big manufacturing firms, so as to say, as advanced automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence takes over. It is going to come from the number of startups, each contributing to 20, 30 people. So if you are talking about, let's say, a 3 lakh jobs, you can just imagine the number of startups, each giving 30 sort of jobs, will make up for that target. And I think that is the direction in which India should be moving. So I'm grateful that I got an opportunity to share some of my thoughts. These are, of course, views from my own personal lens. This is something from my own book of life, not by reading some other textbooks. But I thought these thoughts on innovation landscape, startups, and the challenges of scaling up and creating an assured innovation framework, more importantly, assured total innovation framework would be of some use. I hope you have a great, exciting day today. Thank you very much.